Hey guys, welcome back to the Art of Craftsmanship. My name's Dustin, and today in the shop we're going to do a new thing that we don't normally do. We're going to be doing a multi-part series knife build along. Now, we normally don't do series because we don't like having to find parts of series. We really like giving you the content that is all in one video. You don't have to go through and find part 1, part 2, part 100 of making one thing. We film everything together. We do all the editing and make sure it looks really nice and give it to you in one full video. So that way, when you watch one of our videos, you're seeing something from the beginning to the end. You get it all in one go. But we are going to make a little bit of an exception to that rule because we're going to do this build along. Now, the reason why I'm doing this build along is because I have been inspired from the Knife Talk podcast. Now, Knife Talk podcast is a really awesome podcast. 3 guys, Jeff Mareko and Craig Lockwood. They do this great podcast. They're just talking about knives, about knife makers, about knife stuff, about metal work, and all sorts of fun stuff. They do lots of different things. But they're doing a build along, and I thought it'd be really fun to build along with them. And they're going to be talking about on their podcast. Craig, who has a YouTube channel, his channel is called Chop Knives. He's going to be doing somewhat of a video build along as well. And I thought it'd be a really great resource as well for you guys to be able to follow this build along and have some visuals to go along with, what they're talking about on Knife Talk podcast. They're using a company or an online program called Knife Print, which is a really cool program. Also, we're not sponsored by Knife Print, but I just think it's a really cool program for knife makers where you can take templates and you can adjust them and kind of create a knife. And then they give you the opportunity to basically tell them you want it printed, and they'll cut out that shape of knife and whatever steel you want, and they'll send it to you. So check it out if you want. And also, just really, really encourage you guys to build along with us. It's just a really cool way that if you've never done any knife making before, this is a great way to, go from never doing it to ending up in the next 6 or 8 weeks with a finished knife that you've made yourself. Now, also, if you're a knife maker and you've done it before, you're amateur or pro or whatnot, it's just a fun way to build along. So we're going to give you guys the content, we're going to give you the video, and hopefully you enjoy it and build along with us and share your experience with us as well. We'd love to hear about it in the comments. You can send us pictures. I'm going to be posting a lot of stuff on Instagram at the hashtag @KnifeTalkBA. So that's the Knife Talk build along hashtag. And so I'll post a lot of pictures there. So definitely, keep in contact with with us there and keep in touch, and then we'll all kind of do this along together. So the first part of our process today is going to be talking about the design, what I did. I printed it out. We're going to transfer that onto some 01 steel, and then we're going to cut it out and profile it. So today is just all about that initial design and getting it onto your steel and getting it ready. So let's talk a little bit about the design. Craig from Knife Talk has made a template that everyone can use. So if you're interested, when you go to Knife Print, you can check out his template, and it's already there. And he's done a really cool template. It's a great kind of all-around hunting, outdoor knife. But he's encouraged everyone to make edits and change it to what would fit their needs better. So I did make some changes. I didn't really like the way that the choil was, or I thought I wanted a little different, so I made my choil a little bit smaller. I brought the full edge of the knife down to the end of where the handle comes, and so that way I've kind of have a longer, wider blade. I brought the tip up a little bit and made the belly a little fatter as well. And then also back in the handle, I made a few adjustments. I wanted the handle a little bit longer. With his, it's a little bit smaller on the underside where you curve your fingers around. So I made mine a little bit longer, brought it down a little bit, and made it a little longer. I also changed up the positions of where the pins were and made them to a 1/4 inch because I'll be using a 1/4 inch brass pins. I'm going to start by cutting out my template and taping it onto my steel. And I'm going to be using a piece of 01 tool steel. You can use any number of steels to make a knife. One of the easier ones to do just kind of an easy general heat treating is 1084. 1095 also works well, but I'd encourage if you're a beginner knife maker, 1084 is a really good steel to work with. 01's a little bit more temperamental, but that's what I have, so that's what I'll be using today. So I'm going to have that steel, and I'm going to cut out my template. I'll tape it on, and I'll just use some spray paint, and we'll just spray over it to lay out my template. I'm just getting ready to cut out my profile. Now I'm going to be using a 4-inch angle grinder to trim off some of the material, and then I'll do the rest of the shaping with my 2x42. I'm going to put on a 36 grip belt on here, which will just hog off a lot of material. Now you could use a porta-band to cut out your material if you have one. You could also use just a standard kind of woodworking grinder if you have one that has some belts on it. Like this, I have just a 4x36 with a disc grinder attachment. That'll work well. Whatever you have, you could also use a grinder with a grinding wheel on it to do that shaping. But again, I'll be using a 4-inch angle grinder to cut most of the shape out and then finish up with my belt grinder. So that should be good with the rough profiling with the grinder, the angle grinder. I don't want to go too much further because I just don't want to take the risk of cutting into my profile. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the grinder now and use that to do the rest of the profile. I'm going to use a chainsaw file to file out my choil and a rasp. I just want to do this by hand before I drill the holes. So I'm going to use my center punch to just make a mark in the middle of each hole. I'm going to be using a 1/4-inch drill bit to drill these out, and the center punch hole will help to center that drill bit as it hits the steel. Now, when you're drilling your holes out, you want to make sure you're using your slowest speed on your drill press. And if you don't have a drill press, you can use just, go slow, use some lubricating liquid, and I'll be using WD-40. But on my drill press, I do have some multiple speeds, and right now you can it's set to the lowest speed. So I have it set to the largest wheel on the drill head side and the smallest wheel on the motor side, and that sets it to 620 RPMs, which is the slowest speed I can get on this. So again, just make sure your drill press or your drill is set to a low speed, use some cutting fluid, and just take your time when you're putting these holes in. Well, I was wondering why I wasn't drilling through, and the entire tip is snapped off. So fortunately I have another 1/4 inch drill bit, which will drop in and finish that hole. I'm switching over to a hardened steel drill bit, and this is just a cobalt drill bit that's specifically for hardened steel. And this will just cut through more. I'm gonna add a bunch more holes to the handle just to give some more material and some more space and area for the glue to go all the way through and grip into the handle. Now to finish up my profiling and my cutting out my holes, I'm going to use a larger diameter drill bit to put a chamfer, and that'll just help to clean up any burrs and also just have a nice transition into each of those holes. Now you can use a chamfering drill bit or an angle drill bit. I don't have one right now with me, and not everybody's going to have one. So you can always just use a larger diameter drill bit to do the same thing. All right, well, we just finished up the profiles, nice and easy. Just make sure you have everything, drew up the template. We did all our profile, used the angle grinder, and then back over to the belt sander, shaped everything, and then we went over to the drill press and drilled our holes for our handle material later. So next week on the build, we will be doing our heat treatment. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out Knife Talk podcast. It's a really great podcast, and you can hear from them what they'll be doing as well for the build along. And again, I really, really encourage you to follow along and do this with us. And I would love to see your work and love to see what you're doing. You can always post to Instagram. You can follow us at The Art of Craftsmanship. And if you're going to do the build along with us as well, post us and tag us on Instagram. I'd love to see those. So you can tag us at The Art of Craftsmanship and tag the Knife Talk BA for Knife Talk Build Along as well. That way we can all see it and we can build this community of the knife builders. So it's been fun. Make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell for a notification as well, because that'll notify you when we put up the video each week for this build along. And make sure you also like this video too. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next week on part 2 of the knife build along, the heat treat.